All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, part two to the undrafted free agent breakdown for the New York Jets. Part one was a couple days ago. It was the night of day 3. And since that point, we've had actually a decent amount of signings. So, let's break them down here. I think the Jets actually have a pretty solid UDFA haul, man. I'm looking at some of these names thinking, okay, some of these guys could actually be steals, like preseason standouts. On this roster. But anyway, let's jump into it. So first player up here, center from Purdue, Gus Hartwig. At 6'5", 312, he has 48 career starts at center. He's a solid run blocker, but did allow 2 sacks last season. The real question with Hartwig is, can he get stronger? If he gets stronger, he kind of projects to the NFL better. That's kind of the buzz with Hartwig. But at the end of the day, 4-year starter going up against great competition in the Big Ten. An interior offensive line is one of those positions. Yeah, of course, we have Tippmann as a starter, Josh Myers, how much regular season, real-time starting action does he receive, if at all? But at the end of the day, he's only on a 1-year deal as well. I think it's really important to continue to, I know we went with Olu last year and Membu this year and AVT a couple years ago, but I think it's really important to continue addressing the offensive line, right? Just filling out the depth, keep adding guys, keep adding talented guys out of college to this room. Next up, an offensive lineman from Germany, Leander Wigan. At 25 years old, 6'5", 291, Leander, of course, was from Germany, came over to the States and played 1 season for UCF, ended up going back over to Germany in 2022, but then in 2023, he was actually a key part of the Rainfires Championship, and he was actually first team all ELF. And a couple of bullet point kind of interesting sort of facts with Leander. Number 1, he's coached by Joe Thomas, former Cleveland Browns legend, coached by Joe Thomas over in Germany. The second, 38 reps on the bench press, 225, right? That's the combine number. That's 5 more than everyone at the NFL combine. 5 more. 6'5", 291, right? We're seeing guys out there 6'4", 330, 335, 6'5", 291. Five reps over everybody at the combine. That's some pretty impressive strength. And of course, right, he has the production to back it up. So I'm actually really, really excited to see what Leander can bring to the table once training camp rolls around. Next up, linebacker from Cincinnati and West Virginia, Jared Bartlett. 6'2", 225. He spent 5 years with the Mountaineers before this past season going over to Cincinnati to join the Bearcats, where he literally put up career numbers in every important statistic. Tackles, 69, tackles for loss, 12, 7.5 sacks. He's appeared in 61 total games throughout the course of his college career, so he's kind of like this veteran coming into camp. But I think one thing that's really encouraging here, and we also have another player on this list who I'm really excited to talk about in a similar boat, but of course, with West Virginia, but then pops off. He kind of peaks right at the right time with the Bearcats in that final season. Speed, explosion. Another interesting thing too about Bartlett is that he's played 3 different positions back in his college career, and he's been productive at each spot. And in this last season, he moved to box linebacker, right? He had a quote with NFL Draft Diamonds where he said it was his first season playing this style or playing this specific position, and it was his best season yet. So he feels like he has a lot of room left in the tank, right? A lot of area to grow in that regard. So, maybe a little diamond in the rough here, right? In Bartlett from Cincinnati. Next up, kicker from Ole Miss, former Texas A&M transfer Kaden Davis, someone with a big leg, but outside of that, I don't really have any sort of analysis on, Davis's game. I'm not a kicking expert. I really want to learn the ins and outs of kicking, but up to this point, I don't have the knowledge. So we got to look at just pure stats here with Davis. So in 2024, he tied 4th in the FBS with 24 field goals made out of 29 attempts, which is right around that 82-83% mark. 2 of 4 from 50 plus with a long of 57. Back in 2023, he played in all 13 games, perfect from extra points, 45 for 45. 18 of 23 with field goals, 2 of 4 from 50 plus with a long of 56. Now, Davis is experienced, right? If you look at the amount of games played, I mean, man, there's a ton. There's a ton of games played. So, you're factoring that in. You're factoring in SEC environments, right? Big schools, good competition, pressure moments, big stadiums, loud stadiums. I mean, there's some college football stadiums that are bigger than MetLife Stadium, and they get full, they get packed in. So, you kind of like those higher pressure environments with a lot of, screaming fans, especially in those away moments, those, potential big kicks late in games and whatnot. And Kaden Davis has that experience. Next up, Deir Brown, wide receiver from Rutgers, was a former Monmouth transfer, but this past season in 13 games, 757 receiving yards, a slot type of receiver. He's electric with the football in his hands, but really the question is, how do we get him the football? There's maybe some questions with ball tracking, maybe some questions with route running. Again, it's getting him the football is kind of that big question mark, but once he has it, he's off to the races. He's making plays. He's making guys miss, which sounds very similar to Malachi Corley, right? I mean, you're thinking of Corley back in college. You saw like a lot of slants. You saw a lot of screens. You saw just like a lot of just quick hitters to Malachi Corley, and then you're just kind of in awe watching him work, trucking guys over at his size and whatnot. But in the NFL, looking, of course, at that staff, right? Hackett, that the entire offensive staff, they just had such a hard time drawing stuff up for him. It just felt like there was this major disconnect with Corley. But, Miller here has this, I would say, a similar skill set, although Corley's looks a little bit more like a powerful runner. Next up, Aaron Smith, linebacker from South Carolina State, 6'2", 230. Supposedly there was some pretty heavy interest in the Philadelphia Eagles in acquiring Smith as well. But he's a great athlete. He makes plays using his speed and motor. Really, that's where his bread and butter is. Now, there has been maybe some inconsistencies popping up throughout his time there with, maybe overly aggressive. And we actually see a lot of that with Quincy Williams. He's kind of toned that back with more playing experience, but sometimes he would just, he would shoot in, go to make a play on a running back, and he's running so fast, the running back just continues to move to the side, and Quincy just goes flying right by him. There is maybe a little concern with that with Smith here, but I gotta say, if I'm a coach, I would much rather have that guy playing at like redlining, right, flying around the football field, trying to make plays, playing like his hair's on fire, as opposed to the guy that's taking plays off, the guy that is, shrugging his shoulders or feels like the play's over when when he individually gets beat. So I think it's coachable. I think it's kind of, again, it's better. It's similar to like quarterback arm strength, right? When you have like a quarterback with a huge arm, you constantly see these guys getting chances after chances, as opposed to, the quarterback with the weaker arm who isn't, completing passes. He's not accurate. Who's going to be getting the second chance? It's probably going to be that QB with the stronger arm. So with Aaron, I'm excited to see, kind of that fire flying around rookie minicamp and, of course, training camp when we get to it. And last but not least, defensive tackle from the Clemson Tigers, Payton Paige. Now, some people might recognize this name because he was absolutely elite, one of the best prospects in the country at the defensive tackle position. Very highly coveted. 6'3", 290. He actually should have been drafted. Based off this past season, there was a lot of projection that he was going to be around, a day 3 pick. And really, when you're looking at Paige, in his first 3 seasons with the Clemson Tigers, he was the backup. He was like that rotational guy. Didn't really see a ton of time. Didn't really have a ton of production. But after those first 3 years, he came in and started in 2024, put up 14 starts, 32 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, became a team captain. Good acceleration and burst, but can also power rush as well. Someone who looked pretty good this past season for the Clemson Tigers. And this is one of those, situations where I feel like, hey, you know what? Maybe we have to look a little bit deeper into a player like this, because when you're coming into these big schools as like that high profile of a high school player, there's something there. They all, not every, 5-star guy and whatnot out of high school works out, right? Obviously. But I think in Paige's case, where his biggest weakness is lack of playtime, and then you're saying, okay, well, why is he not playing? Well, what school is he at? Clemson. What's Clemson known for? Having great defensive lines. So he's been stashed through the years behind, older, also talented, great players. So he's just been stashed behind Clemson. It's not like this guy, can't play or, like look at how Clemson does things. I mean, you can talk about like numerous NFL prospects that have came out in the last 4 years from the Clemson D-line. Brisset, right, top, what was he, first, like a top 20 pick by the New Orleans Saints a couple years ago, back in that 2023 draft class, if I'm not mistaken. There's been a lot of talent on that Clemson D-line. So if one of the only flaws here with Paige is that, hey, he doesn't have production, he doesn't have a lot of, experience, and in the one season, he became a team captain, he was productive, and he was making an impact, and we're scooping him up now in the undrafted free agent pool, talk about value. Defensive tackle has been kind of a position of need here for the Jets. They say they feel good about the position, but I feel like you could always add to that spot. The Jets have been cycling through these different guys year after year. Kinlaw, Fotu, Sheldon Rankins, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson. I like Payton Paige here. I do. I think this was a pretty sweet acquisition. So those up to this point are literally all of the Jets undrafted free agents, right? So that's going to do it for the undrafted free agents. I might make a part 3 if the Jets bring in any more, but up to this point, that is all of them. I'm freaking amped up. I really liking this class. Donovan Edwards at running back, Brady Cook, quarterback from Missouri, who I'm really excited about. Again, Paige here from Clemson. I think Leander from Germany here. I think this is going to be a pretty exciting group. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.